Hi and welcome to our competitive commander deck tech video for Niv Mizzet Visionary. This is a 6 mana Izzet commander that will give you unlimited hand size, but more importantly, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you draw that many cards. This means that he's a curiosity variant. For example, if you have a firebrand archer in play, and you have a curiosity enchanted on a firebrand archer, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you will basically draw a card for each opponent in play still alive. But it will work the same way with Niv Mizzet Visionary and firebrand archer as well. So the basic idea is to have several different variations of firebrand archer, like Coruscating Mage, an Utter Wizard, Kessig Flame Breather. With this you can have a build that is focusing on getting your Niv Mizzet Visionary into play as fast as possible with various different rituals. And once you have that commander in play, have one of these pingers. For example, if you cast a Rite of Flame for 1 red mana, Firebrand Archer will trigger and deal 1 damage to all opponents. And because of Niv Mizzet Visionary, you will draw 3 cards. This means we have naturally built a perfect storm concept, where each card can basically be both a ritual giving you mana and card draw at the same time. From this point forward, you can basically just sit and cast your entire library, more or less. Somewhere down the line you have to kill your commander, because Niv Mizzet Visionary's draw ability is not a May ability. You could actually accidentally kill yourself. But through this storm concept, as you're casting rituals, drawing cards, generating a bigger mana in your mana pool, and building up your huge hand size, you're eventually going to kill your opponents with Firebrand Archer triggers, more or less. And of course we should mention that you're gonna have Underworld Breach, Lines of Diamond and Brain Freeze inside this build as well, meaning that you can easily sculpt some form of victory down the line somewhere. But there are other potential options you can also go for. For example, you can play Burn Stax or Group Slug. The basic idea is that you have a bunch of creatures, artifacts and enchantments that basically deal damage on your opponents whenever they're doing something you don't want them to do. This will, when they take damage, trigger Niv Mizzet Visionary and draw you cards as well, making your Stax burn cards into value engines at the same time. There is a problem with this build, and that's it's slow and a bit sluggish. It's not wrong to include some of them, but the moment you have Niv Mizzet Visionary and a Firebrand Archer variant in play, you will basically win the game if the rest of the deck is just rituals, variants of Rite of Flames. So I would like to mention that there's a potential trap you could walk into when you're starting to include too many of these. Yeah, it's gonna work out and be pretty cool, but it's gonna hurt the better functional concept. But it's also possible to include some spells that deal direct damage to opponents' faces. I would like to recommend Bolt Wave. For 1 red mana, you will deal 3 damage to each opponent. This is a really bad card inside this format in general. But the moment you have Niv Mizzet in play and you cast this, it's 1 red mana, and if you have 3 opponents, draw 9 cards. That's a pretty good burst of card draw for just 1 red mana, and it's gonna function perfectly inside this storm concept. And there are lots of different variants to this. For example, End Festivities. This will deal 1 damage to all opponents and each creature they control, which means it's a mini board wipe, but with Niv Mizzet Visionary in play, you will draw 3 cards as well. Flame Rift will deal 4 damage to each player and basically draw you 12 cards. Price of Progress deals damage to each player equal to twice the number of non-basic lands that player controls. And inside this multicolored format you usually play a lot of non-basic lands, which means that Price of Progress is going to be a burst of card draw for you as well. And as you can see, we're starting to Visionary a form of victory here, as this Niv Mizzet Visionary is basically just going to Group Slug burn the world to death. But now we have to mention a very important card you should have some second thoughts about. Wheel of Misfortune. Let's say you have your commander in play and casts Wheel of Misfortune. This red wheel will deal damage to your opponents, which means that if your opponents collude and talk to each other and they all say they're going to pay an equal amount together, all at the highest potential, and they calculate their total life total they're going to pay to be higher than your total deck size, they could kill you. Just imagine you cast this and your opponents are paying 30 life each. You're going to draw 90 cards and you're going to die. So don't do that. Stick to Wheel of Fortune instead. But that's basically the deck in a nutshell. Lots of different fast mana rocks, and red rituals to get the commander to play as fast as you can, then as many variants to firebrand archers you can get, and that is going to be basically how you're winning the match. After this point you're basically filling your deck with necessary cards you need to improve your storm capacity, but also your survivability of getting Niv Mizzet and a firebrand archer into play, and basically have some counterspells to stay alive and such, while also including some red groups like Stax cards. But there are tweaks you can actually do to this build. As you might have realized, it's quite commander centric, but the more groups like Hatebears you include, the better it actually is of surviving without the commander. Once again, we're actually killing people with direct damage, and if you just sit there and just play the deck out without the commander, you're going to kill your opponents anyways eventually. So this is definitely not a commander that have to be commander centric or commander dependent. It can actually survive and pivot a tiny bit. In the description below of this video I will leave a link to various different Niv Mizzet visionaries that have gone to cEDH tournaments, and you can scroll around and look through different variants of cEDH tournament builds of Niv Mizzet Visionary to see if anything fits your style or if anyone is giving you a cool inspiration. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you so much for watching. Now get out there and burn people to death.